Okay, start recording in three, two, and one. All right, and welcome back to the Reserve Squad Midweek Show, a soccer podcast covering all things in the EPL from a bench perspective. I'm USMNT, and well, the EPL is on a break, but we're going to change things up this week and make this a USMNT focused pod. Instead, we always like talking about US soccer, and Greg Berhalter is back, so we're going to dive in a little bit into that. So we had two friendlies, Uzbekistan and Oman. I think the aggregate was 7-0, but we're going to wasn't necessarily that rosy. A lot of that was tacked on a little bit towards the end. So most of it we're going to just kind of talk a little bit about that, and kind of excited about this podcast because I'm going to try some new graphics. I'm going to try to see change the display up a little bit to see if that makes it look a little bit better. I don't know. It might actually look bad, but we'll have to see. And then after that, the international break is actually over. So we get back to club football this weekend. Liverpool, I think, opens up the weekend on Saturday with the early game versus Wolves, and we'll kind of get started. We'll get started with that, and then I think immediately this coming week, this coming Tuesday, Champions League kicks off. So everything is getting back to full throttle again. So look forward to that as well, and. So just kind of getting caught. I'll do what I normally do, to kind of just run through both games, and then do some kind of a recap a little bit after that, and kind of hit on some themes that I've noticed. Some that I actually think are positive, and then some that are. I mean, Berhalter is back, so that's not going to be a full Berhalter bash show. But there are some things I am a little bit concerned about, and I'll get into that as well. And so getting started with USA versus Uzbekistan. We do win a 3-0. The first goal came in like the second minute from Tim Weah, and a lot of the TNT people thought this was going to be a relatively easy game. And I don't necessarily know if they were just like trying to hype up this U.S. team, or maybe just completely disrespected Uzbekistan. Maybe it was a little bit of both, to be fair. But Uzbekistan actually did show something. It wasn't necessarily that we were bad. Uzbekistan went into this game actually kind of clever and went into basically played something similar that we saw in Qatar that gave us fits. That gave us fits versus Wales, gave us fits versus Iran when they moved to their formation, and then gave us fits versus the Netherlands. And so that'll definitely be a theme that I hit on as well. And then Ricardo Pepe was able to get one at the very end, I think in like the 89th minute. So it was 1-0 going into the 90th minute. And then Pulisic was able to get a late PK caused by Midweek who came on as a sub, and only got like 10 minutes and was at the heart of both goals towards the end. So I thought that was a little bit of a theme and storyline to get to. But I mean, leading off, Greg Berhalter is back. This is his first chance to lead the team in an actual game. He wasn't. He was announced after the Nations League final, and then wasn't really involved with the Gold Cup. We saw BJ Callahan, and I mean, if nothing else, the lineup and call sheet that he used, I think was promising. But again, that's kind of hit and miss here, because we weren't necessarily that great in these two friendlies, and this was a pretty strong team for us, to be honest. But I mean, the thing that kind of that immediately showed up was all of his tactics were about the same. So we saw his 4-3 again. There was a change with actually playing with a striker. We weren't doing that in Qatar. We were trying, false nines with Josh Sargent and Jesus Ferreira, and his what qualities that they offer. It's not necessarily scoring, at least for us. So it was different to actually use Balogun and to use Pepe as kind of the front man. But we saw a lot of crosses from the fullbacks. We saw fullbacks playing really high up again. And we saw a high line because we were trying to press and win the ball back. And that kind of exposed us a little bit at the back, especially with someone like Tim Ream, which we saw. I mean, the game recap was just TNT was trying to really hype up this team, and trying to really hype up Berhalter being back. In fact, they had someone saying that the person in charge of the hiring did some like analytics, data formula, and basically said Berhalter was by far the best out there. And data basically confirms that. We'll have to see about that, because it's not just what the data or the style of playing. So I have issues with that. We've seen his man management that has been a bit of an. I don't think he's still even gotten back and gotten in touch with Gio Reyna. He made some comments about that. He was like seeking therapy to find out the right way to address that situation, which that by itself suggests uh-oh. But Gio Reyna was apparently injured, and he's still injured from that Nations League game. Apparently, he's getting close to being back to fitness. There's suggestions that he will be available in the next window when October comes and we play Germany. So we'll have to see how that works. Does Berhalter call him up, and does Berhalter actually play him and play him in the position that he was playing in the Nations League? We'll have to see about that. But I mean, this game really was just 1-0 going into the 90th minute, and then we were able to tack on a couple late. I thought once Malik Tillman came on, he actually was kind of I don't necessarily know if Berhalter was asking him to play this way, but he was trying to play a little more as a creative 10. There was a couple times when he was getting the ball in the central area, and he had a couple people in front of him. He was immediately coming in and looking to make some clever runs, to making behind. He was connecting well with Dest and was it Pepe? It might have been it was Dest and someone else. That I thought, oh, Brendan Aronson. The combinations that he was immediately doing, I thought was really good. So some positives at least there, at least. But to be fair, Uzbekistan had a lot of number of danger moments themselves. It wasn't like a 1-0 game where we were just kind of controlling and dominating the play. We were kind of on the back foot a lot in that second half. And really, anytime we lost the ball, it looked like they had a chance to break on us. Their formation and the way that they were playing, I thought was really giving us fits. They had three center backs that were pretty calm on the ball. We weren't really able to press them into that much danger. And what was really happening was their fullbacks were able to constantly getting behind and constantly confuse us, and especially their number three. To call someone out was really, really doing well at getting behind Anthony Robinson. And their one of their strikers, he was either actually both of their strikers, 11 and 14, were quite good at making themselves available, getting the ball in the turn and holding the ball up when we were trying to press them and to get them to turn it over. And they were quite good on the ball. To be honest, I don't really know anything about them. Apparently, as some people have been saying, they have a chance to maybe make it out of Asia qualifying or not. But it seemed, things I read actually has said that there are some positive things about this team, and they did draw Mexico in the game after that 3-3. It was versus Mexico's B team, but that's something to be said as well. But Uzbekistan struck the post. We did as well, but struck the post and forced Turner in a couple like big key saves. There was one-on-one that Turner was quite good on. It was after like a Temreem mistake. So it was this game honestly could have finished level. And I don't think that would have been an unfair result. But we were able to get a couple late and make it a little bit more I guess respectable in our eyes, but a little bit more uncompetitive on the score sheet at the very end. The lineup news was it was interesting to see Chris Richards back. Chris Richards and Temreem back line. That was good to see. And because of Tyler Adams being out, we saw Luca Telatorre tried as the 6. And this was a bit of an issue as well, because in the beginning, it wasn't necessarily that bad. Luca Telatorre, at least in possession, was quite good. But they were actually getting, I think he was a number 3 guy again. They were able to actually run around him quite easily. And then when Luca Telatorre got hurt and his replacement came in, Tessman, that ended up making things a lot worse. We were worse in possession. They found out immediately that they could press him kind of to just go backwards. He was never really a threat on the ball, and defensively, I didn't necessarily think he was great either. So that was a bit of an issue. But to get started with the game, like I said, in the second minute, Tim Weah scores. It's just Pulisic kind of chips a hopeful ball into the penalty area, and Weston McKennie has tremendous control to take this down and collect it the way he does. And then by doing so, he drags a lot of defenders onto him, and he's able to keep his head up, and he's being surrounded at this point, and he's able to find Tim Weah completely unmarked, kind of next to him. And Weah does what you should do. He doesn't think about maybe passing it backwards or trying for the safe option. He tries for the strike, and it kind of just deflects off the defender to fool the keeper and to go into the far post. And just to kind of touch on McKinney, I'll probably touch on a lot here. Is it wasn't necessarily a good performance by us, as a team, but a couple guys really did show up and stand out. And McKinney for both games is definitely one of those players because he was playing in multiple positions on the field. He was playing out wide. He was sometimes coming deep when Musa was out of position. He showed a lot of vulnerability in this game, and his control on the ball I think was as good as I've seen him. And his vision to switch the play across the field that we saw versus Oman was very, very good as well. He looks a better player. I don't necessarily know how he's been doing at the club level with Juventus because he did not look like this last year with Leeds. Then again, Leeds were an absolute mess, so that's not necessarily his fault. Uh, and then in the 15th minute, I've got kind of a half chance for McKinney, and then it leads to a really big chance just immediately following with Balogun. The only negative is it's maybe a poor decision by McKinney, not necessarily recognizing to play maybe a different pass because we do well to win the ball back, and there's really some good line splitting passes from Chris Richards and Luca to send McKinney free with the ball at the halfway line, and he has Balogun making a sprinting run, in front of him. And he's probably going to get in behind those defenders. And McKinney, instead of playing that ball, opts to play it outside to Weah instead. And when Weah gets the ball, Balogun's covered by like 5 guys in the box. So nothing really happens there. But it still leads to a chance because when Weah passes it back to Dest to recycle the attack, Dest floats a ball back post that McKinney is able to head across goal to Balogun. And Balogun, you maybe should say he could finish or should finish because Balogun, it's almost a free header, or he at least outjumps everyone to get to this ball. He's close to the goal. He's maybe 5 feet away or so, and he can only find the goal post. It's just unlucky. But a good chance for Balogun, and also McKinney didn't necessarily have the best pass, but he was able to get in the box. He's very good at making those runs into the box, and he's good in the air, and he does well to set up Balogun here. And then I have a half chance where Robinson just kind of had a cross into the 6-yard area that nearly found Balogun. Balogun made the right run here. He is anticipating it. He's just a little late. But this was pretty good. And so this is kind of the positives of playing Robinson kind of higher up. I'm going to get to there is kind of a downside to that, which comes up, I guess here, because in the 21st minute we have our first Uzbekistan chance, and number 3 hits the crossbar. I'm terrible with names, so I'm just going to use numbers on this podcast. I'm sorry. So Tim Ream here is late to engage, and Anthony Robinson is worried about the guy on the wing. And Matt Turner basically is beaten when he gets here. He just kind of cuts inside, and the shot that this number 3 player has, it's nearly identical to the goal that Saka scored versus Tim Ream on opening day. When Nottingham Forest played Arsenal, and Matt Turner has also been beaten. He's beaten the next week by kind of a similar shot. When Gustav Hammer had a similar kind of finish. So, and Matt Turner doesn't necessarily get to this. He is beaten if this is on goal. So that is a little bit that little dive radius is maybe not where it should be. That's just kind of something we need to think about. Obviously, Turner's on number 1, but that is starting to be a little bit of concern, at least for me. But it doesn't come off. He does hit the crossbar, and then we have a half chance for Balogun at the 26th minute. Balogun does well to collect the ball in a very tight area. That shows what kind of skill he has, and he does well to also get a quick turn and get the shot away in the box. And there were a number of people around him, and he's still able to collect the ball, being passed to him, keep it, and then find a way to create a little space and get a shot off. And it just goes right to the keeper. But this is good. This is good by Balogun here. And then we have another chance for Uzbekistan. Actually, really. It's Uzbekistan the rest of the way almost. So the 28th minute, we have a number 3 flashing a shot wide, and it's kind of similar to the first chance. So what happens here is number 11 of theirs goes out wide, and number 3 shows with the ball, and that pulls Anthony Robinson to push up and mark number 3. And then 11 goes wide, knowing Tim Ream can't follow him. So number 11 is their striker, and he goes wide, knowing that Tim Ream isn't going to necessarily do that. So Musa has to catch up, and he actually does a decent job to recognize that and to mark him. But what happens is that he's not there necessarily in time, and by then number 3 is able to beat Anthony Robinson to space. He's able to basically put himself between the ball and the player, and he gets the ball from the pass from the striker number 11 that went outside. And he just flashes the shot wide. If this is on goal, it's probably going in. The angle though was tight, to be fair, And Tim Ream actually does well to stay in position where he was because when number 3 gets the ball into the penalty area, he has to go through Tim Ream basically because Tim Ream is blocking a lot of that goal. And again, the angle to beat Turner is quite hard, to be honest. And he just flashes it wide. So Tim Ream maybe did a good job to not follow him. But then we have another chance for Uzbekistan in the 40th minute, and this is where Tim Ream doesn't do a good job. Actually, we've got 2 of these. So we have a breakaway for them. Tessman basically he gives the ball away either with a poor touch or bad pack pass to Tim Ream. Either one I guess works. I think he is just trying to pass it. It's a bad passing decision. But either way, we look lost a little bit here when we were trying to pass from the back. Again, they recognized that Tessman was not comfortable on the ball, and that was benefiting them, tremendously, because that was forcing us to go wide, and they were playing with wing backs. They had the wide areas covered. But here, we just kind of lose the ball. It's almost a 1v1 chance that their striker number 14 is able to run at Turner, and he at least the shot comes at him, and he does well to make the save. He maybe could have tried to go across goal than necessarily near post. It's a little bit of a weak shot in the end. But that was a warning shot because the next one was a lot worse. So the 45th minute, again, it's their number 14 that gets a breakaway, and this time it is on Tim Ream. Tim Ream is just he's late to release the ball, and he's caught on the ball, and Turner has to make this 1v1. Completely. What he does is he does well to make himself big, and again, versus maybe a better team, someone probably does put this away, but Turner does well to at least again make the shot as hard as possible, and Turner it hits at some of Turner's body, and nothing really happens on the chance. Though this was a danger moment. Basically, we were vulnerable anytime we lost the ball. I thought Anthony Robinson was playing almost too high on the pitch at times, and Tim Ream definitely looked very, very gettable to me anytime that was happening. So halftime thoughts, it was just 1-0. We had a lot of possession, but I thought we really did lack a scoring threat. We were trying a lot of crosses into a packed penalty area, and then for them, they outshot us. They were playing with a back 5. They were playing quite defensively, and yet they outshot us 7-6. And it was a deep block. But what was happening is they were really good at getting transitioning from defense to attack immediately using those wings backs, especially that number 3, because he was eating Pulisic's lunch. I thought defensively, Pulisic wasn't necessarily having the best game, and he was thriving anytime he was able to get in front of Anthony Robinson when Robinson was too high upfield, and he was able to basically run at Tim Ream. That was happening a lot. And basically, for the until until like the 70th minute, it really was them controlling the game. To be honest, so in the really early on, the 46th minute, again they have another breakaway, and this comes from a free kick. Oh, this isn't a breakaway. This comes from a free kick. This is a good chance though. It's caused by Richards kind of fouling a player after 14 does a really nice turn on him. This is kind of what I was talking. He was doing this a lot. He was very good at kind of finding his little gap between either Chris Richards and Dest or Chris Richards and Tim Ream. And they were finding a way to pass the ball through lines to find him, and he was doing well to hold up the ball, and that was allowing them to get upfield. When you're playing with wingbacks, usually you're kind of starting with the wide players kind of further ahead of the attackers, and so you having a focal point that can hold on to the ball that allows them some time to make their runs, and this guy was doing very, very good at that. He creates the foul here, and then on the free kick, the ball is sent in. They're looking for someone at the back post, and the guy ends up getting it, and he tries a shot or a cross, and it flies just kind of across the goal, missing everyone, but this was close. And then we have in the 45th minute, their number 4 sends a cross in. Tim Ream first does well to win that header, but then it gets number 3 gets to the loose ball, and then he does a step over to create some space for Anthony Robinson before trying a shot to the far corner, and again it just barely misses. And then in the 60th minute, we have Robinson is worried about their number 11 making a run to get behind Tim Ream. And so what he's doing is he's cheating by playing a little bit more in the middle. So that's leaving the wing spot open for their number 3. This guy was just everywhere. Musa or Pulisic is late to recognize that they are now responsible for that player if Robinson is going to try to double mark the guy in the middle. They recognize that Tim Ream was a little bit vulnerable here. And again, I I think that's going to be a little bit of a theme. I like Tim Ream, but we need to maybe start thinking about Copa is a year from now. He's already, I think, 36. He's already kind of up there in age. I get he's playing every week for Fulham, and I'm not necessarily saying he shouldn't be picked to be involved next year. But as far as starting games, going forward, I think we need to think a little bit more about this because especially when we're playing a high line because they were targeting him to be especially with our fullback playing almost as a winger at times. They had a lot of chances to do some 1v1 stuff for Ram, and so here anyways, Anthony Robinson is a little bit more. He's creeped inside. He is playing defensively here, but that's leaving the wing spot open. And what happens is their number three gets the ball from a switch. He gets into the box and tries to beat Turner near post, and Turner again has to make a save here. Their center backs were very, very good passers. All three were. And again, that number 14 striker was good at positioning his body, like I was saying, and they were kind of feasting off that. And then we finally have a chance for Dest, and this was a pretty big chance. So Dest gets the ball in the wing. He uses Brendan Aaronson's run out wide to create a little bit of diversion to freeze their Uzbekistan's like third center back, and so or I guess freeze the wing back. And so Dest then beats the wing back to the penalty area or draws the center back out wide, and then Dest beats the wing back to the penalty area, and then basically from there he's before he's get to able to get to the keeper, another center back ends up kind of recovering, but Dest does really well. He's 1v1 versus center back. He's able to kind of freeze him with a little quick jab or feint. And right before he's about to get the shot, he's closed down at the very last second. But this was really good by Dest again. Something that was kind of lacking with the team, at least in that second half, was just the ability to take a risk. Be a little bit direct. Again, they didn't necessarily want to take a risk because anytime we lost the ball, we were dangerous or we were in trouble on transitions. But this was sometimes what you need to get through a team that's well defended against you. And for as good as our center backs were, at least in possession, they did seem a little bit vulnerable to anyone making movement against them, and we just didn't necessarily do that enough. And then Tillman came on. I did feel like we switched a little bit there. It looked like Tessman and Musa were kind of playing a little bit more in a double pivot, and that was actually a way to also offer protection in the middle where those passing lanes weren't nearly as easy for them. Um, and then we kind of did take the game over. And it didn't happen when Tillman came on. So in the 81st minute, Dest, Aronson, and Tillman have a little triangle. And it's clever passing exchange to kind of get behind their back line. We didn't do this nearly enough. We were able to draw the center back to charge out. And then the cross is blocked. Basically, I think it goes out of bounds. And it's Tillman's first action. So very good there. And then Pepe and Tillman do well to win the ball back. And Tillman kind of slots in Aronson running in behind again. And it's good movement that is just kind of stopped by at the very end. I think the cross is blocked for a corner kick. But again, we were finding different ways to get behind their back line that they weren't really able to handle. And then in the 87th minute, we have a really good turn by Tillman. He collects the ball and turns away from pressure, and he advances with the ball, having runners ahead of him in very good positions. And he plays in Pulisic, and it doesn't come off, but it's close. This is better from the U.S. And then we have a chance for Uzbekistan where they have an overlap run that frees up the attacker to shoot because Pulisic isn't tracking back or Musa. And we could have gotten burned here, but the shot goes wide. And then we do get on the second goal with Pepe. And it's a great, I do want to say this. It is a fantastic ball over the top that starts this by Tim Ream. This wasn't, I kind of went at him a little bit there, in at least early in the second half, because it seemed like they were kind of targeting him. On the ball, he was very, very good before he was caught. But, this pass was very, very good. And the reason why we scored this is basically because of that pass, that long ball that goes over the top that finds Aronson making his run to get into the box. And, Aronson does lose the ball, but he and Pulisic are, stick with it and are very good at, to stick a leg out and to win it back. And then Dest kind of gets to a loose ball in the final third. And then what Tillman does is he runs out wide, and that brings the defender to follow him. And that leaves space for Dest to play a pass to Brendan Aronson, sitting in a little gap between the defense. And Dest plays it, and then Aronson quickly turns, and I think he's trying to maybe pass this back to Dest, but it falls to Pepe. Pepe jumps on it and fires it into the corner, and it's a number 9 finish. And it's quick, decisive moves by Dest and Aronson that lead to this, as did Tim Ream's ball. over the top. We were very it seemed we were more concerned about basically just kind of keeping on to the ball than necessarily having a thought on what to necessarily do with it. And that changed a little bit after Tillman came on and after Aronson. Aronson coming on was a good sub as well. And Weah was the one that got the goal, and not necessarily Aronson should play over Weah. But I do think something in the mindset did change when those players came on a little bit, and then we get the third goal with Pulisic's PK. Aronson again is kind of at the heart of this, so Aronson is from the right part of the box is able to square a ball into Tillman, and then Tillman collects it, and I think he has a touch, and then he's able to draw the foul. So again, Tillman and Aronson coming on, I guess, kind of changed things up a little bit here. And some of the game notes I had was we were sloppy turnovers on our chances led to their best chances. We were vulnerable on any kind of transitions, which was not necessarily great. I do think the Luca Delatorre injury did factor in and did hurt us. We probably would have looked a little bit better, as we saw in the Oman game. And probably a different opponent. It's hard to necessarily compare. Yunus Musa was like 11 of 13 for ground duels and was much better at covering distance. And I think that was definitely something that we were lacking. When you play with a single pivot, which is what Berhalter does in a 4-3-3, that DM needs to be not only good on the ball, he needs to be able to track back and cover a lot of distance. And we just weren't necessarily doing that. I also thought their left back was just having fun with Robinson too high on the field. Uh, I had Balogun being started for service. That wasn't necessarily his fault, but he was very isolated in this game. He was looking for someone to thread him to a ball in the middle like Gio did versus Canada, and that just necessarily wasn't coming. And I thought a formation and playing style did look stale. And then for the second half notes I had, we had offensive and defensive issues. And I was wondering if it was just like, are we missing Gio Reyna? Was an issue of not playing with the number 10? Um, Malik Tillman coming on and kind of playing as maybe a little bit more advanced as that 10 role. I do think that was interesting because it wasn't necessarily that; it was also playing with a pivot in the a double pivot in the center of the field. So I think that kind of closed off a lot of their passing lanes. Another thing it did was it made it harder for them to find, their strikers that were trying to hold up and trying to look for the ball. So I do think that was the right call. I don't necessarily know if it was Berhalter or Callahan. Callahan apparently is also on the field with him now and able to offer some advice. But whatever that change was, it was a good change. Uh, and the defensive high line with Tim Ream, I thought was an issue. Um, as far as key stats, we have USA with 13 shots and 6, Uzbekistan 15 and 3, and they outshot us in both halves. We blocked 4 of their shots as well. Only 5 corner kicks for us, I thought, was a little bit surprising considering how much of the ball we had. We had 65% of the ball and 582 passes, 90% accuracy. So that kind of shows you we were kind of just passing the ball to pass it. I didn't necessarily think we had control of the game because it didn't really feel that way. It was very strange, to be honest. Both teams also hit the woodwork, and I think let's see, how many saves did we turn at? 3 saves. Turner had to make 3 saves. Their keeper had to make 3 saves as well. We were 6 for 22 of crosses. We were crossing the ball a lot, and that 22 is nothing because first Oman, I think we were like 6 of 19 in the first half. So that is something to think about as well. It seems like that's how we're looking to play, and if that's the case, I would play with 2 strikers. Um, so that is that game, and then I'll move on to USA and Oman. We get the first goal again, kind of an early goal with Balogun in the 14th minute, and then Aronson gets kind of a free kick deflection to go in. It's not really the best free kick. It's not really the best wall defending by Oman, and definitely not the best keeping in these. And this happened in the 60th minute, so it took a while to get that second goal, and then Pepe gets the third one, and then there's an own goal in the after a little bit after that. A leading off story I thought was Tillman made a start, so I guess. Berhalter liked what he saw and started. He didn't necessarily start as a cam. He basically did start as another 8. Is interesting to see Balogun start over Pepe, and then Pepe also scored. But the real change was Musa as that number 6 DM. I thought it was interesting. We didn't necessarily see that last game. I guess he wanted to see what Tessman had to offer. I didn't think Tessman was ready. And then we got to see a center back pairing of Robinson and Richards, and I thought this was much better. again, Oman didn't offer nearly the threat that Uzbekistan offered, which is you can't necessarily compare the two in that respect. But Robinson and Richards, I thought were good. I thought were good handling that high line, and you just never saw. We didn't see nearly as vulnerable on transitions as we did in that other game. And I don't necessarily know if it was because of Ream or what, but I mean, Robinson and Richards just had better legs, to be honest. But another thing that happened was we saw Lind play over Robinson, which was a little bit surprising, and or Anthony Robinson. And Lynn was offering some things that Robinson I don't think necessarily offers. So I think that was interesting tweak to see as well. We need to see what our depth is. I think it's funny Berhalter just refuses to play Joe Scally, going back to Qatar, and he didn't get minutes here. So let's see. Just kind of getting off started. The first chance did come their way in like third minute. Like they get a quick shot and it kind of just flashes wide of the goal. But that was kind of that was both just kind of a warning shot, but also almost kind of emptying out their chamber. They didn't really offer much after that. In the 7th minute, I've got a bunch of like early decent crosses by us, so we weren't necessarily waiting till we got into the box. We were actually trying to switch the play up a little bit. It looked like we were trying to change how we were crossing the ball in, sending the balls in, and I don't necessarily know if it was just that was a directive that Berhalter said, but we were playing a little bit differently here. And the crosses were finding us. There was a really good cross by Weah that nearly found Lin, making a back post run. But one thing that we're saying is I thought we were still struggling through their lines. Their front two were really marking Musa, and the back line I thought was really compact. So there was space out wide in the midfield, and that's where we were going. We were looking to kind of get balls, out wide in that middle third area. And basically, this is where Weston McKennie just feasted. He was getting the ball there and just sending long ball after long ball into the box, or crossing the field, switching the play. And constantly we were able to find people that way. So that's how we were advancing the ball versus better teams. I don't necessarily know if that would necessarily work, but it worked here. And we get the first goal kind of that way. So what happens is Weah first gets the ball down the left wing, and fires in a ball into the box, kind of looking for Pulisic, like crossing it in kind of early. It's a good ball in, but Pulisic actually slips here, because I think if Pulisic stays on his feet, he maybe scores here. But then Weston McKennie sprints to win a loose ball, and then again he kind of he gets the ball kind of top of the left box and switches it, sends a ball to the back post that Weah brings down with really nice control, and then lays it off to Dest, who hit this early. Again, didn't think about passing it backwards or recycling it, or not, or maybe trying a different cross. He took the shot on, and anything can happen when you do this. You could hit a player, it deflects, and then the other team has a chance to counter on you. You could look foolish and hit this out of bounds. So that's the reason why you don't always normally see this. But he gets the shot on target. It's a good shot, and it forces a save. And the keeper can only rebound it right to Balogun's feet for the easy putback. And so good on Balogun to be in a good position, and good for him to finish this. And then we nearly got a second with Tim Weah in the 16th minute. It looks like this was really good, and I was wondering, well, why is it called off? And it was because of an absolute obvious handball. But the reason I talk about this is it's a terrific early ball sent in by Lund that creates this. He gets the ball in the wing, and he sees Balogun making a clever run, kind of a diagonal run, going across the goal. And this is a very clever way to he kind of curves this in a little bit, and he does it early. I don't think Anthony Robinson would have played this kind of pass, and he does it on the ground. And Balogun is able to beat the keeper and get to the ball first, and then that's basically where the goal comes from. I think Pulisic ends up kind of getting the ball, and then he sends it across. That way, it nearly gets on the end of. If there's actually, if the Pulisic's ball would have been a little bit closer, or Weah maybe would have been in a little bit different spot, he maybe does put this away with his head, but he couldn't get to it, so he used his elbow. But I just wanted to touch on the ball that Lind played, because this was quite a good ball from him. And then we had a chance with Miles Robinson, as a kind of a center back. I think this came after a quarter kick, so that's the reason why he was in the box. But it's similar to the first goal. McKennie has another switch of play towards the back post from the left side of the field. It finds Tillman, who cushions the ball and lays it off, kind of almost exactly like Weah did to Dest for the first goal. and he lays it off to his teammate, and Miles hits it first time, and he forces a decent save. Uh, I thought, and that's basically all I have for chances. A couple game notes I had was I thought our rest defense, that's kind of a term that's been talked about now, is I thought we were not nearly as vulnerable when we did lose the ball. And I didn't necessarily know if that was because of Tim Ream not playing or because maybe Musa as a number six was doing a lot better to cover a lot more ground. Because they didn't seem to be able to do really anything when they got the ball. And anytime we did lose it, we were actually very good at winning it back. So our counter press was quite good. And to be honest, that is one thing you can praise Greg Berhalter for is we didn't used to play like this, and he came in and immediately wanted to. That was the one thing he wanted to really work on. And I remember that was something even like England commentators when we played England noted our counter press looks like a club press. So we still have that. And we have the players to do that. So that is something you can maybe praise him for. And against Oman, that was maybe against like better teams that wouldn't necessarily, against better teams that would also work. But I think what that also does is in a tournament that makes you have to cover a lot of distance when you maybe if you don't necessarily have to win the ball back or you're doing a lot of running to work without the ball in that situation. And one of the highlights that happened in Qatar was I think we were like the number one or two most run teams, or at least we covered the most distance, and that was both a positive, to our work rate, but also a negative because when it came to that Holland game, I thought we looked a little gassed, especially Tyler Adams, to name someone. So there's something to kind of think about with that. And then another game that I had is we again couldn't really attack through the middle. We had 20 crosses or long balls that half. Which for a half that is a lot. You're looking at 40 for a game. That 40 crosses is a ton. We ended up with like 28, so that is interesting. We actually ended up kind of fixing that a little bit in the second half. But it took until the 60th minute for us to get the second goal, and the second goal isn't necessarily anything to really, sneeze at. I mean, I shouldn't say that. To praise, because the wall buckles, the shot deflects past the keeper. I think it's poor on the keeper's effort, and poor not to set the wall properly. And it was another game that honestly was ugly. So it wasn't the best, two games to install a lot of optimism for next summer. We'll get a lot more kind of look into how this team is going to play, maybe in the next window, because I think we play Germany and Ghana, and Germany's got their issues as well, but they just beat France, so they're still a good side. Uh, but the play before this, I think, is good. The play before the free kick, it's set up by Tillman looking to receive the ball in the middle of the field. He gets it and then turns to get past the defender, and then he has runners ahead of him and tries to threaten Aronson, making a run through the middle of the box. This was quite good. And what's funny enough is he did have Dest. Maybe Dest was the better option out wide, but the U.S. had been doing stuff like that all night. Trying to they would get the ball maybe in good spots, and they would immediately trying to look to get out wide. And here we finally found a way to attack through the middle for a change, and it nearly came off, but it did draw the foul, and that's basically what led to the other goal. And then we get to Pepe's goal in the 80th minute. And this is a fantastic finish by Pepe. Dwan Jones has since come on, and he makes a forward run. He gets on the wing and then plays a ball into the box that finds Pepe. And Pepe does very well to control this first time, and then he does really well to quickly get the shot away before being closed down. Now again, there's a little luck here. It goes through some legs. It's possible this is blocked, deflected, and you lose the ball. But he takes the chance and he's awarded by taking the chance because the shot it's good power on the shot. It's nice and low. It's a hard save. Even if a good keeper saves it, I think a good keeper isn't to the best a good keeper is going to do is still parry it into a danger area where you've got a lot of numbers into the box. So this was all around really good forward play by Pepe, which I really like. And I think it's Pepe's just kind of seems to recognize when to be in the box. To be honest, and I going forward, and with one of these games, I want to see him and Balogun tried together. Now I know it's hard to do that with this 4-3-3 that Berhalter likes playing. He's very rigid in the kind of formation and style he likes playing, but that is something I'd maybe like to see if we could find a way to do play with two strikers, because I feel like Pepe will also he'll drop for the ball and looking to kind of carry it when the space is there. He's very good at doing that, and Balogun. it looks like he wants to just run off the shoulder for days. He's kind of like Holland in that respect. He's always looking to make that run, and I think Balogun can sometimes be uh, a little, I won't say exhausted, a little kind of fed up or annoyed when he's making really clever runs all game, and we're not really looking to feed him those kind of passes. So I think someone like Pepe would do that. Obviously, someone like Gio would do that, which we saw versus Canada, and we saw versus Mexico. So they're just kind of things to kind of throw out there. And then the fourth goal came from an own goal. But the reason to kind of touch on this is again we get the ball out wide. It's Paredes makes a good run out wide. He's completely free unmarked, so this is really bad defending by them. And then he's trying for Pepe, and Pepe basically forces the own goal with his run. It's a nice through ball by Benjamin Kremashki, who has since come on. And again, it's poor defending, but you play who you play. But I did like what I saw from the kids coming on. Jones, Paredes, and Kremashki we're all kind of forward thinking, looking to how can we get behind? How can we advance the ball with our first thought? Let's not just go side to side. Let's actually try to hit them. Try to hurt them a little bit. Youth exhibits or I don't know ignorance, whatever. I liked it, and again, it's a friendly, so why not try to play that way? So that's at least something to praise. And then in the 85th minute, I've got a USA chance for McKinney, and he makes an absolute meal of this. But the play by Pepe is very, very good to set McKinney up. Uh, and again, I think Pepe has some playmaking in him. So again, I feel like him and Balogun could work together if that was tried. As far as game notes, again, circumstances aren't really ideal. I did feel because of the way a bunch of federations are actually doing qualifications for their other stuff, and we don't have to qualify for the next World Cup. We're kind of stuck a little bit here. We're limited to who we can play, and so there is some of that. But I do feel like Uzbekistan did offer us a good test. Playing that five in the back with us. Forcing us to think about sometimes what happens when we have our fullbacks. High up versus playing a high line with maybe slow center backs. I do think that was something for us to think about again. But I feel like Oman didn't offer us anything. They had poor keeping, their attack was non-existent, and it didn't seem like anyone had pace in their side. So it really wasn't a test. And England and Scotland did play each other in friendlies. I do think that was maybe kind of a wasted opponent. And then Pepe scores again. That was kind of a note to say as well. But I mean, yeah. So our early thoughts is, to be honest, Ricardo Pepe has a Ricardo Pepe just seems to time and time again save Berhalter. I can't think of what I wanted to say because he does it in back-to-back games, and it's very weird when you think back to Pepe being left off for the World Cup striker. It's very weird what happens when you actually play with strikers in an attack, because we seem to score goals when we do that. And we went into a major tournament, leaving Pepe and Pifak at home. That again, I do think needs to be highlighted a little bit more. Berhalter needs to answer for that. I don't think he's gotten nearly enough attention. Everyone kind of went to the Geo stuff. The Geo stuff, I think, was absolutely outrageous as well. The way he was lying and the way he was, both of them were actually, I thought, were childish, to be honest. But I think Berhalter hasn't done enough to respond to that. Why do we go into a major tournament where we struggle to create and score the entire game or the entire tournament? We had a midfield that was very, very good at winning the ball back and actually keeping possession, but we had no creativity. We had no ways to actually we had no scoring threat. To be honest, why did you leave those two strikers off? Uh, you brought Haji White and you brought Jesus Ferreira, and I get it was unlucky to lose Josh Sargent, and that's why he wasn't able to play him versus the Netherlands. That to me was a massive, massive oversight, and I'm flabbergasted he's never been asked to respond to that. But at least here he is actually playing both Pepe and Balogun, and I don't think it's a coincidence. Hey, we're actually scoring again, so there's something to say with that. And then Pepe, I don't even know if we qualify for the World Cup if Pepe actually hadn't had that little purple patch when he had started to play a little bit, because he was the only one that actually was uh, saving us in a lot of these games. So once we actually qualified, all of a sudden Pepe got the cold shoulder, and then Jesus Ferreira started starting for us every single game. anyways, I don't necessarily have to go back all over that. Um, but to touch on at least these two games, I was impressed with Uzbekistan. I thought they handled us, pressing them well, and they were able to create a number of a lot of danger moments. And again, it was just 1-0 going into the 89th minute. And US had been saved by the goalpost and Turner. And again, Uzbekistan did draw Mexico last night. So there's something like it was their B team, but it was something to talk about there. But another thing too is the way that they were playing. Again, it showcased what Wales, Iran, and Netherlands were doing in Qatar when they were able when teams were able to play wingbacks against us and able to counter using that when we had our fullbacks out of position. That was kryptonite for us, and it seems like that still is kryptonite for Berhalter's style of play. Uh, and then the score itself looks respectable. 7-0 aggregate over 2 games, not terrible. There was a lot of window dressing though, and I think all but 1 goal came before like the 80th minute in these games. And in Oman, a lot of really bad keeping errors and defensive errors that just kind of led to US kind of adding it up a little bit. There's I guess what I'll say is there's a lot to work on. There's a lot of work that needs to be done because I don't think this will be good enough for Copa. I'll have to see. Again, it's possible we play down to our competition. We'll have to see how this team looks versus Germany and Ghana in the next window. But for all this, there was a lot of hype that no people that are negative about Berhalter returning. They need to embrace this. This is actually we've made a great decision. This is someone we can get behind because we're going to be super front foot. We're going to be exciting again. And this wasn't really the best example of that. But again, just 2 early games, or just 2 games to go off, and we'll have to see how we do going forward. For key stats here, a little bit better: 19 shots versus 9. Oman 7 and 1, 3 big chances for us. Again, we had majority of possession. We had 8 corner kicks, so I think that was a little bit better. Passing was a little bit lower, 470, 87%, but I think we were going long a lot more than necessarily just kicking the ball just to kind of kick it. Uh, and let's see, it was 6 for 19 crosses in the first half. We were doing a lot of that, and then I think we ended with like 11 for 27, which was a little bit surprising. So at least that is better because I really was expecting us to be closer to 40. I mean, some positives just for everything is Pepe, Balogun, and Weah all scored. So that's definitely good for us going forward. Good to just to have guys that can find the net and be especially get that confidence at least playing for us because not everyone is playing in that necessarily position at their club team. It's worth saying. I think Balogun finally just moved to Monaco. So we probably expect him to soon start for them. I haven't necessarily followed them. I know Monaco is winning uh, their league right now. They're number 1, and Balogun was fantastic for Ream just last season. So he knows the league. He'll probably be playing there soon. Weah sometimes actually plays as like a wingback. I feel for Juventus. So he's not necessarily playing as a winger or playing in that inside forward kind of spot. And then Pulisic was able to convert his PKs, so that's good. I didn't necessarily feel like he had his best showing, but it is what it is. I did think it was the second game we defended a lot better, but it was also versus a weaker team. So two ways to look at that. I do think Musa and McKennie continue to be very, very good for us whenever they play. Musa, I don't even think has played for AC Milan yet. And McKennie, they said McKennie is maybe playing as wingback for Juve, but just not only just good on the ball and good defensively, just able to like they look complete midfielders. I actually feel like it was maybe a mistake for EPL teams to judge McKennie on how he looked for Leeds. Again, this was just versus Oman and whatnot, but just the way he was able to pick his head up and just find a player's foot every single time, or find a player's chest was very good. I think he was something outrageous. He was like what 13 for 15 with long balls. Uh, so his passing was incredible, and his close touch that he showcased in both of these games was very very good too. He seemed he seemed like a I don't know a re-energized player. He looked very very good, and then Musa himself was quite good in his duels as well. And he played. We asked him to play 2 different positions, as an 8 and as a 6 in this game, and he was able to do both. I thought he was maybe our player of the game, or well, one of them, our standout players versus Canada. When McKinney had to miss that game, and we didn't have Tyler Adams, we had to play Musa as kind of like that number six versus Canada, and he was fantastic in that game from what I remember as well. So our midfield is quite good. We have Tyler Adams to add to this. We have Gio Reyna to add to this. So something for us to at least kind of be positive about. Malik Tillman showed something, so maybe he can get some more minutes to prove himself as well. And then a couple of the guys got to get their feet wet, and I didn't think necessarily looked out of place. Now again, friendly versus maybe not necessarily the strongest opponent, but it's something to at least see, because I do think Paredes, Lynn, Kramaski, all looked good. Jones, Dewan Jones, all looked good. They came on and took advantage of the situations. At least everyone other than Tessman. I didn't feel like Tessman was ready and didn't have the best go of it. Now he came on at 20 minutes after being like an emergency sub. I don't think maybe he was even expected to play. There could be some of that as well, but it just you can only go off with what you see, and so in that game he didn't necessarily have the best go of it. And then some negatives. The formation and playing style, which I'll probably get to a little bit later on, that just continues to kind of show up. Tim Ream in a high line, that was an issue. And then there is that. Some kind of like takes or topics to kind of start off with is Greg is back. And there is a question to why, but I mean, we have him. But it did feel like, at least in this game or these two games, all the good work that PJ Callahan and Anthony Hudson did, it did feel like it had been tossed out. We were playing back to what we were doing, during the World Cup. All the stuff, the kind of tactics we were playing versus Canada in the Nations Leagues did seem kind of out the door. And again, there is a question to be, why is he back? If nothing, I would have stuck with Callahan, but we're hosting the World Cup. Whatever we do, we're gonna have to live with, because this is a once in really a lifetime opportunity for us to advance. Not only just advance where we've done in the past. People that host this thing usually do get a serious bump. And going into this, I don't want us to go into this handcuffed. I also don't want to go into this where I'm going to not be able to enjoy it. And we're gonna have to. Berhalter's gonna have to improve somehow, some way, for me to enjoy any of this, because going into this kind of with a pessimist kind of like look to it, so far it has been proven out. So again, 'cause he hasn't even talked to Gio Reyna. That to me is absolutely weird, and just I get they had some like everyone knows about the issue that happened with Gio's parents and him. But everyone needs to know what Berhalter did, going to reporters and talking about Gio, outside the locker room, and kind of airing everyone's dirty laundry out in public, where Dortmund had to be like, what the hell? So, and then it was just looking how he played versus Canada. He set up two of our goals in the Nations League. He set up a goal versus he maybe he even scored, but he set up a goal versus Mexico as well, and we played him as kind of like that number 10 with a little bit of a free roll. And so this is going to be one of our more important players. He needs to get this kind of he needs to get this relationship right. And then again, the Qatar run I did not think was that good. Everyone has been praising us for how we were the youngest team, and Berhalter did well to get us out of a really tough group. Didn't really think the group was that tough. And we went into this kind of struggling to create chances. We sat two strikers, and we needed a Carter Vickers kind of challenge in the last minute to survive beating Iran, to even get out of the group. And then Netherlands schooled us. Wingbacks, we were schooled with wingbacks every single game. And again, I do think the football he plays is stale offensively, and defensively, it's suicide football to play high defensive lines, slow center backs. In Qatar, we went in with Zimmerman, and we tried. Was it Aaron Long? It might Aaron Long. I definitely know he played some minutes. Tim Ream was, I guess, started every game. Aaron Long at least saw minutes versus Wales, and we only played Cameron Carter Vickers for one game. It was Ream versus and Zimmerman versus Holland, or versus the Netherlands. I remember that, and that didn't work out at all either. Zimmerman has been very, very good defensively in the MLS, and I think that's the reason why he also had to get a Gold Cup for us. But on the ball, he was a real big issue, and we like passing from the back. And when you have center backs that aren't necessarily good at doing that, it allows teams to kind of press you and kind of they allowed allows other teams to dictate the tempo, not the other way around. I don't feel like Berhalter understood what he was necessarily doing. It's and I don't think it's interesting, or I don't think it's surprising to see, when Chris Richards has been played instead. He is good at that. It's kind of annoying he doesn't get to play a little bit more for Crystal Palace because Mark Gahey, keeps playing a little bit. We got to see a little of him for England. I didn't necessarily think he was that good, but he's English, so he kind of gets the nod. So there's just kind of something like that to talk about. But just speaking of how we were in Qatar, I do think it was crazy also to not go in with a striker, trying to do kind of we're crossing the ball in. I think we crossed the ball more than any team in uh, in the World Cup, and we were doing that with the Jesus Ferreira and Sargent. I mean, Sargent's not necessarily short, but Sargent hasn't shown he's a goal scorer, at least at the international level. I know he's doing some good stuff with Norwich before he got hurt. And there was that also that news broke out about Berhalter's past, which is kind of I get you didn't necessarily want to reward someone blackmailing him, but he admitted to doing the bid, and it's just none of this felt right. The way that they were. The way that they were saying that they were doing a coaching search, and it's basically come out that no, there was never any kind of replacement or any kind of idea about that. It was always going to be him. Maybe he was given an 8-year deal to start. Uh, it, it- and another thing too is his team selection throughout through qualifying and through during the friendlies was absolutely inexcusable. Some of the guys that he kept calling up and kept giving minutes. We gave a number of guys. Jordan Morris got a number of minutes. Uh, Aaron Long, Christian Roldan. There's just a number of guys that just kept getting called up. So where that was a time to maybe try out some of these other guys to see what they could do. It was wasted minutes. We had limited opportunity before to prepare ourselves. We also had to, in those friendlies and Nations League or whatever Gold Cups, that could have been a chance to try out some different formations, try out some different things, but we just didn't. I feel like just our preparation before the World Cup was completely off, and the team selection that he brought with him, I thought was really off, and the coverage to TNT I thought was gaslighting. The way they wanted to say that no, this is fantastic news. Another thing too is we know Berhalter had not only has locker room issues with Gio. He's done stuff with Matt Miazga. He shut guys out when they've crossed him. John Brooks has been kind of revamping his career a little bit in Germany. And he's probably the best playing center back that we have. And here we were trying to play this certain kind of style, and it's very weird how we've never tried once to call him up and ask him to kind of play with us. I feel like that is I think he played in that like Honduras game when we were losing like 1-0, and he's been blamed for that. I can't really explain it. Um, but I mean, we have him. So what can we do to maybe make this a little bit better? I did have some thoughts like maybe try Musa as a single pivot instead of Tessman or De La Torre, and we did see that versus Oman, very fair. Or try Musa and McKennie double pivot like we saw versus in the Nations League with Canada. And we saw that maybe a little bit towards the end of the. It wasn't Musa and McKennie. It was I think it was Musa and Tessman towards the end of the Uzbekistan game. But yeah, just play a little bit more like we played in the Nations League. Being a little bit more direct, not necessarily just passing from the back. Maybe keeping the fullbacks a little bit more defensive, getting the width from elsewhere. Maybe playing with a creator to have a little room, space for room. I do think that could have been something to see. When the team is sitting a back five against you, why not play with two strikers? Why not try to punish that? Someone playing with three center backs, why not play with two speedy attackers that can draw center backs out of position with some good runs? We didn't see kind of any of that, and I was kind of wondering, could you change the dynamic a little bit? Could you make Robinson defensive, almost like a third center back? in possession? And could you make Dest the creative attacking fullback instead? I feel like because something I keep kind of noticing is when Robinson bombs forward, his first thought is to just go out wide and maybe send a cross in. Maybe it comes off, maybe it doesn't. He normally has a good delivery, but it is kind of low. He seems kind of limited a little bit. You never really see him kind of cutting in towards goal. It seems very predictable. Where with Dest, I feel like Dest can cut inside and go outside. I feel like the combination he was doing with Weah and Brendan Aronson when Dest was able to be get a little bit forward, like we saw for Saman, was a lot better. And if you could do it this way, if you kind of switch it, you can start with like a back four, but in possession you can maybe switch over to where Dest kind of becomes another attacker. Maybe Dest becomes the creative guy. You could have a three with Robinson, maybe Weah and Richardson. And from what I saw versus again, it was only one game for Canada in the Nations League. I thought Robinson was fantastic defending. That was basically the change that BJ Callahan did. He asked Robinson to not necessarily be caught up because he knew he was going against Davies or going against Canada's speedy wingers and attackers, and Canada was never really able to get behind him. And another thing too was Robinson was very good at cleaning up. There were a couple of times where maybe Canada was going to get to a loose ball into the box, and Robinson was the first one to get there and to clear the danger. He's very good at recognizing that. So I feel like Robinson could maybe thrive in this kind of role. And why not? Why not see it? Maybe you could get a little bit more out of Dest that way, because I don't really think Dest is a defender, to be honest. So that's maybe something you could maybe try to do. Uh, but we have Berhalter back. We have Berhalter ball. It was interesting to hear TNT basically try to explain what this is, because that was kind of mind numbing itself. The one of the commentators basically went on with it's complicated control. So that that there's been a lot of talk by players even saying like it's complicated. It's complicated, like the terminology he uses. It seems like the idea is just having a lot of numbers in an area to win the ball back, to control wherever the space is. You know, he uses a lot of terminology for that, but it doesn't seem it seems everything is about necessarily dominating where the ball is. It doesn't necessarily seem how do you break through a defense that's kind of set up against you. We haven't necessarily seen that. Also, it's not to me, it's not very control like when you're vulnerable on any transition attack due to where often your fullbacks are. To me, I don't necessarily think Berhalter's some like mad genius who's like thought of this. I mean, this is kind of the conspiracy side of me. I just feel like he kind of had when he came into the team, he just looked at how Liverpool and Man City were playing, a few years ago, and he saw Robinson kind of playing as he saw how Robinson was playing, Anthony Robinson, and he was like, "Oh, Anthony Robinson, you kind of just do that." He saw how Liverpool were playing with a midfield that was basically a pressing engine and an engine to control games, to win the ball back, not necessarily to create. And he was like, "Hey, we've got a midfield that can do that." I just kind of feel that's when Liverpool were winning like every single game during that stretch. I feel like that's kind of where Berhalter's come from. Uh, but as we've seen, that's other teams can learn to kind of play against that, and we struggle for ideas at times. So that's where I think we need Berhalter needs to evolve, and our team it needs to evolve, whether that's Gia Reyna or something else. I like the maybe trying Dest idea. Or trying with two strikers. We did see a 4-4-2 versus England in Qatar, and we weren't necessarily great going forward, but we were fantastic defensively. We smothered England in that game. So it is what it is. And then so we have him. So what we have to, and I'm not going to say embrace him, but we have to kind of let's go into this with a clean slate and kind of judge this team on what they do in the next window. The next window, they've got Germany and Ghana. And again, Germany in turmoil, but they did beat France just this past weekend. So it's still a good side. They're going to get Musiala back soon. He hasn't necessarily been able to play, so we'll see how that works out. They have fired Hansi Flick. That wasn't necessarily working out. That was a bit of a surprise to me, to be honest, considering how good he was with those Bayern teams. And not just going through the Bern Bundesliga. He won the Champions League with that Bayern team. Won a number of trophies. There was a stat at one point when he had won more trophies with Bayern than he had losses after he won the Club World Cup. But things it just hasn't necessarily worked with him. So we'll see where Germany looks to. I've heard Tuchel's name I guess thrown out. I don't know if he's necessarily interested. Nagelsmann would probably be kind of a name people would maybe go to. I hope they don't look at Klopp, but especially because Salah basically, it's, Klopp can't leave after Salah basically, staying with the club after the sums that Saudi was offering. Klopp has to at least at least respect Salah's wishes there. But yeah, well, we'll have to see what Germany do because I feel like Euros only in a year. Germany's roster at least looks like they could or should be able to compete, and I feel like they're hosting it. So they're going to obviously want to have someone to come in, and they're going to want to do a little bit better than what they've done in World Cup. They got dumped by Japan, and that was kind of the thing that led to them firing Flick. I think it was on the back of like them losing 4 out of 5. They were really struggling. Um, so let's see. So we'll have to see how the next window works out. One thing I definitely want to see. This is you don't even have to do any kind of formation tweaks or anything. I want to see Miles Robinson and Chris Richards get some games together. Find a way to install a little partnership. Because we're going to need to think about again what our center back pairing should be in Copa. And another thing that I had a big issue with Berhalter in the pre the in our kind of prep for the World Cup was we changed our center back pairing every single game week. It felt like we just never really had any kind of continuity. And then even come the World Cup, Tim Ream is the one that's starting. I don't think he played in any kind of qualifying game or any kind of friendly before that. And so I want to immediately kind of see that change. And so again, we're going to have to hopefully Berhalter kind of went into this with some ideas, and hopefully this little period that he had, maybe with getting some advice from BJ Callahan, maybe we'll get a different Berhalter. We'll have to see. I can only hope for the best and be optimistic in that case. Maybe it's unrealistic optimism, but I don't have anything else to go off. We'll have to see. I mean, there is no Tyler Adams for any of this, so we'll get him back. We'll see. Maybe we'll see some things change a little bit. And then I think lastly, my main takeaway for all of this is we're finally scoring a lot of goals, and both our strikers are scoring. It's we do seem to have two strikers that are capable of creating chances and putting them away, especially if the service and supply can be there. So I do think long are the days of just trying to install someone that just drops in the midfield to just kind of be a number. That the way he was playing Jesus Ferreira and Sargent, I like the idea of actually playing with strikers, but we'll have to see if that continues. And then it could be worse. We could be the New York Jets. Not to I guess there's enough said about that. Mexico looks yikes at the minute. England still playing with Southgate, so who's playing Harry Maguire in games. So Canada maybe is bankrupt. They're not even playing games right now. So we're not the only federation struggling. I guess we can go with that. And then that's it. That'll be it till I guess mid October for the other international break. So again, club football kicks off again this weekend. Liverpool will go on to play Wolves, probably with a lot of players that maybe they won't be able to go with. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is still injured. We'll have to see about that. Virgil van Dijk has that suspension against him, and I think I saw Darwin Núñez was only able to go like a half for his last Uruguay game, so that could be a bit of an issue. We'll have to see. A lot of the guys actually on Liverpool played well in that international break. Gakpo scored a couple of goals. I think he got an assist in a couple of games. Diaz played well. Jota played really well for Portugal, apparently. So we'll have to see how that works out. And then Europa gets underway for Liverpool on Thursday, so that'll probably by Thursday at least will be fun. And Champions League gets underway. Who cares about that competition? Oh, with Milan and Newcastle kicking us right off. I think they have the early game on Tuesday, so that'll be a lot of fun viewing. Tonali versus old club AC Milan. We'll get to see. I don't necessarily know if it's at Newcastle, but if it is, we'll get to see a fantastic environment there. Well, if it's at this area, if it's at the I should know the AC Milan stadium. If it's at AC Milan, we'll get to a fantastic atmosphere there as well to Santerre. So that is it. That's it for this show. Thank you for tuning in. And we always like to talk a little bit about USMNT. We don't necessarily want it to just be a Berhalter bashing show. I try to uh, skew my criticism a little bit. Try to frame it a little bit more as just kind of concerns, not necessarily just try to be hate on kind of thing. But yeah, that is what it is. But anyways, I'll be back next week to talk, do a little EPL rundown like we normally do. And with that said, you say squatting and stop recording.